In this video we're going to discover a very powerful part of your brain that's been key to human survival for millions of years. As we evolved into modern humans around 200,000 years ago, it was there, always looking out for danger, and 10,000 years ago, when we settled and began planting crops and keeping animals, this part of the brain was wired to keep us safe 24/7, and it's still doing it today, virtually unchanged. But whilst our brains haven't changed much since then, our world has changed beyond all recognition. Back then we had to process relatively little information, but now this primitive part of the brain has to deal with thousands of bits of information every day. Always on the lookout for danger, always wanting to protect you. But if we're not very careful, it can get a bit confused and end up creating issues like anxiety, anger and depression, or destructive habits such as addiction, self-harming or eating disorders. Now, as our brains are the most complex structure in the known universe, let's keep it really simple and describe your brain as if it has two characters living inside of it. One is sensible, positive, organized and considerate. We'll call this your human mind. And the other, that lives in the primitive part we've been talking about, can be judgmental, emotional, negative and selfish, which we'll call your monkey mind. The human mind might want to eat some healthy food, do some work and get to bed early, but the monkey mind might convince you to eat junk food and stay up late watching TV. The monkey always wants control and can be very persuasive. Your monkey mind is not your enemy though, and it can be your greatest friend, so let's see it in action. The central part of this emotional side of the brain is your amygdala, which controls the fight and flight response. Then there's the hippocampus, where the templates live which control our automatic reactions, kind of like computer programs. It's really easy to create templates that the monkey believes are helping, but your sensible mind knows are doing the opposite. Take smoking, for example. The sensible human mind knows that smoking is about as sensible as juggling hand grenades, but your monkey mind may still encourage it. Then there's the hypothalamus, which regulates the chemical responses in the brain and the body, and together these form the limbic system. Now, imagine you're happily using your human mind, then out of nowhere a huge polar bear jumps in front of you. Well, your monkey mind would spot the potential threat before the human mind, and it would take control instantly. It wouldn't ask for permission, it simply takes over. A template in the hippocampus is aware that the polar bear is a threat and tells the amygdala to trigger the fight and flight response, which wakes up the hypothalamus and asks for a massive shot of adrenaline to help you fight the polar bear or run away from it. So, thanks to your fast-acting monkey mind, you escape and you're safe. Now, if that happened, you'd be really pleased that your monkey mind is faster and stronger than your human mind. But would you then forget about the polar bear, or would you keep thinking about it? Would you think how brilliant your limbic system was, keeping you safe, or would you start thinking, what if? What if I tripped? What if it caught me? What if I go back and it's still there? What if it's followed me home? Your monkey mind is obsessive. It wants to keep going over and over the same stories. But as it's programmed to always look at the worst case scenario in order to keep you safe, it imagines what could happen. When you saw the polar bear, it didn't say, "Oh, isn't it nice and fluffy?" It said, "Run before you get eaten." Also notice how you feel when you're replaying the event in your mind. Do you feel relaxed? No, you'll feel anxious and scared. Because when we replay events in our mind, even though we're just thinking about something, the monkey mind reacts as if the event's actually happening, triggering the amygdala and pumping you full of stress hormones all over again. Remember, the mind cannot tell the difference between real life and imagination. If you argue with someone, then sit thinking about it, your monkey mind will start reacting as if you were arguing now. And if you worry about an event that's weeks or even months away, your monkey mind may go into panic mode now. So, we have a brain that encourages us to think constantly about past and future events, that's programmed to look at the worst case scenario, that reacts to thoughts as if they were real events, and that may react to something on social media as if it were a polar bear. You can start to see how easily we can end up feeling anxious, angry or depressed if our monkey mind is left in charge. Now, let's imagine you have a bucket inside of you that we'll call a stress bucket. When you think negatively and worry, you drip stress hormones into your bucket. And the more you do it, the more it fills up, and the more it fills up, the worse you feel. You may have noticed how anxiety and stress can get worse over time. That's because every time you focus on the problem, your monkey mind reacts and you survive. So it says, hey, I've done a good job, and reinforces the unhelpful template even more. This is how we develop destructive habits, addictions, or unhelpful coping strategies. For example, you may be feeling stressed and you reach for food as a coping strategy and you survive. So the monkey says, hey, that worked, and encourages you to do it more and more. But you then put on weight and get even more stressed about that. So the monkey says, hey, you're stressed, have some more food. So the monkey can get it very wrong if it's left in charge, urging you to reach for food, drugs, anger, violence, self-harming, or obsessive behaviours, and even suicide. Or it could encourage you to simply withdraw from the world and stay in bed, not wanting to see anyone or do anything. But remember, the monkey is not your enemy. It's brilliant at managing real life-threatening events, but it's not a good idea to leave it in charge of the rest of your life. But as it's stronger and faster than the human mind, if you try to fight it, you'll lose. You must learn to manage it effectively, which we'll start to look at in the next video.